Ever get that, like, little shiver down your spine when you're online? Like, when you're entering your credit card info and you just, I don't know, feel kind of vulnerable.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's like, is someone watching? Is my info safe?
Exactly. It's a jungle out there, digitally speaking, at least. But thankfully, we've got this pretty amazing thing called TLS working behind the scenes to, like, keep us safe.
TLS?
Yeah, transport layer security. It's supposed to making sure those hackers aren't stealing all our precious data. And today, we're going to do a deep dive on how it all works. All that techie magic behind the
This
scenes.
is pretty complex. Most people probably, I don't know, don't even think about it, right? Just click and go.
Right. But that's kind of the point of these deep dives. We're going to break down how this unsung hero of the internet, TLS, is actually keeping us safe every day.
Okay, I'm all ears. Metaphorically speaking, of
Yeah,
course.
of course. So, I mean, we've all seen it, right? That little padlock icon in our browsers. And that HTTPS at the beginning of the web address.
Yeah. That's like the universal symbol for, hey, this website is safe. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what's actually going on there? I mean, what is it about that padlock that makes things so secure?
Well, think of it like this. TLS is basically, it's creating this sort of like a tunnel, a secure tunnel between your computer and the website you're on.
Oh, okay.
So it's, like a private conversation. No one else can listen in.
So like those spy movies
Yeah.
where they have those scrambled phone lines.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like that, but for everything we do online. Buying stuff, banking, even just browsing. And there are these like three main things that make it work, these three pillars of TLS: encryption, authentication, and integrity.
Okay, so encryption, I kind of get that. That's like scrambling the data, right? So no one can read it except the person you're sending it to.
Yeah, exactly. Like writing a message in code, it takes your data and uses this complex algorithm to transform it. So it's basically gibberish to anyone who doesn't have the key to unlock it.
Right. But how do you know you're talking to the right website in the first place? That's where authentication comes in, right?
Yeah, that's it, exactly. Authentication is all about verifying the websites, like digital ID, making sure you're not talking to some imposter, some fake website trying to steal your info.
So it's like checking someone's ID before you give them your credit card.
Exactly. And the way TLS does this is through digital certificates. Think of them like digital passports for websites.
Okay, but couldn't a hacker just, I don't know, fake a certificate? I mean, how do you know it's the real deal?
That's a great question. There are these organizations called certificate authorities that issue these certificates. They're kind of like the gatekeepers.
Okay.
They do all these checks to make sure the website is legit before they issue a certificate. And your browser actually comes with like a list of these trusted certificate authorities.
Oh, so there's a whole system to prevent those fake IDs, basically. Okay, that makes sense. So then what about integrity? What does that do?
Okay, so integrity is all about making sure the data hasn't been tampered with, during transmission.
Okay.
So let's say you're downloading a file. Integrity checks make sure that what you download is exactly what was sent, that nothing's been added, removed, or changed along the way.
So like a tamper-proof seal, making sure it's the genuine article.
Precisely.
Like that. So, okay, we've got these three key players: encryption, authentication, integrity, working together to build this secure tunnel. But how does that tunnel actually get built in the first place?
Well, that's where the TLS handshake comes in. It's kind of like it's like the setup process, before the secure connection can happen.
The TLS handshake, it sounds kind of, I don't know, official, like some secret society ritual or something.
Well, not that dramatic, but it does have, it has a specific sequence of steps.
Okay.
So it starts with your browser, which is called the client in this whole process, and it sends a message to the server called client hello.
Client hello.
Yeah, it's basically saying, hey, I want to connect securely. Here's what I can do, encryption-wise, offering up its capabilities.
And then the server says hello back.
Exactly. The server responds with a server hello message,
Okay.
and they, agree on which encryption methods to use, all that good stuff. And this is where they also exchange those digital certificates we talked about.
Oh, right. So that's when they show their IDs to each other. Makes sense. But how do they agree on a secret code for the encryption? They can't just shout it out loud, right?
Right. That's where the key exchange happens. It's some pretty clever cryptography, honestly. They use this really cool method to establish a shared secret key, and only they know what it is.
Wow. So they're like whispering the secret code to each other,
Yeah.
making sure no one else can hear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once they've got that shared key, that's what's used to encrypt all the data that goes back and forth.
That's so cool. And then after all that, they finally say, we're good to go.
Yeah. They exchange these messages called finished messages, basically saying, okay, we're both ready to talk securely now. Handshake complete.
It's amazing how all that can happen, like in a blink of an eye.
Right. It really is.
But doesn't it, I don't know, doesn't all that back and forth take time? Like, does it slow things down?
It can, but there are these optimizations that help speed things up, like TLS false start. With false start, they actually start sending data even before the handshake is totally finished.
So, like, jumping the gun a little bit, but in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about efficiency. And then there's session resumption, which is kind of like, having a shortcut. If you've connected to that same website recently, they can, like, reuse some of the security stuff from before.
Oh, so it's like they already know each other, so they don't have to go through the whole introduction again.
Exactly. Saves time and resources.
That's clever. Okay, so we built the tunnel. We've got our secret code. Now what? How does the actual data get sent back and forth?
Right. So that's where the TLS record protocol comes in. It basically it takes over after the handshake.
Okay.
And it uses that shared secret key to encrypt every single piece of data that gets sent. So emails, passwords, credit card info, all of it's locked up tight.
Right, so everything's happening in that secret code now.
Yeah.
But what about making sure the data hasn't been messed with along the way?
Yeah.
How do you know it's still the original untouched data?
That's where hashing comes in. A hash is basically like a digital fingerprint for the data. It's this unique code that gets generated based on the data itself. And the receiver can, generate their own hash and compare it to the one that was sent.
And if they match, everything's good. But if they don't,
Then you know something's wrong. Someone's been tampering with the data.
it's like a lie detector test for data. I love it. Okay, last question. What happens if, I don't know, the internet connection drops? Does the whole TLS thing just fall apart?
Well, if the connection times out, yeah, the session ends. They'd have to do a new handshake to get that secure connection back up.
So TLS is like this, I don't know, this ever-watchful guardian, always making sure things are safe.
That's a great way to put it.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive. I'm looking at those little padlock icons in a whole new light now.
I know, right? It really makes you appreciate how much is happening behind the scenes to keep us safe online.
Absolutely. But, thinking about everything we've talked about today, it does make you wonder, what's next for TLS? As technology keeps advancing, what new challenges will it face? Will it be able to keep up?
That's a great point. I mean, we've talked about how strong it is, but nothing is perfect, right? There are always new threats emerging.
Definitely something to think about. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. This has been incredibly enlightening. And for our listeners, I hope you're walking away with a newfound appreciation for the magic of TLS. It's amazing what a little padlock can do.
You got that right.
Until next time, keep those questions coming.